Hello, in this video I'll be talking about using your abilities in Dungeoneering and strategies on how and when to use them and on what types of monsters and things like that. I guess to start out, this is the bar setup I like for my melee. I like to have freedom always on my bar. Just you don't really need all that many abilities to begin with, so freedom's just a good one to have. Uh, Basically, I just have the basics that I prefer to use. I don't use kick as often in GDs as I should, but if you want to replace that with smash just to do more damage per second, I like kick on there for bosses though. You want the four thresholds that either don't require a certain type of weapon, or the ones that require a two-handed weapon. I won't go over the basics too much because I mean they're pretty much just pretty simple. I guess you want to know that with Fury, you don't want to just activate it and then go ahead and activate another one. It takes a few seconds to complete, so when you activate it, just wait until it does the animation. I'll show you in a second where it swings 3 times, and then go ahead and do your next ability, or else you'll just be wasting it. I'll move on to the thresholds. The Hurricane threshold and the Quake threshold are extremely important for when you're in GDs. They attack everything surrounding you in a 3x3 square. So everything in front of, behind, and left and right and diagonal of you. With Hurricane, it does 188% weapon damage, which is pretty high, and the Quake threshold only does 100% of your weapon damage, but it still attacks everything. You can hit up to 9 monsters at a time easily. As far as the other thresholds, I'm actually going to show you some specific strategies for them. Alright, the next strategy I'm going to show you is how to use the Slaughter ability to cause high amount of damage to monsters. What you want to do is find the monster that you want to use it on. Start attacking them and immediately right click and hover over walk here. Then you use the ability, and when the sword goes in, you walk under them and they move, and it triples the amount of damage that they take. If you do it quickly enough, then you can make it triple the damage 3 times in a row instead of just 2 like it just did. But yeah, if it triples 3 times in a row, you can hit very, very high. I've seen it hit about 2,000 almost with the Primal 2H sword. This section isn't really much of a strategy. It's more of just an example of how powerful a specific ability can be the Assault threshold ability. I'll go ahead and use it on this monster, or this boss, and I'll show you exactly how useful it can be. So yeah, as you can see, it hits really hard. I pretty much almost one-hit this boss using it. If you use it in conjunction with Berserk, like I'll show you later, it can be even more powerful. Alright, I'm going to attempt to show you the type of damage that your area of effect thresholds can do. I'll start with Quake, since it's the lowest amount of damage. I've got some monsters surrounding me here that only hit one of the spiders, but more importantly, I'll show you Hurricane. You see, it's very useful when you're surrounded by monsters, because you can save a lot of time by not having to attack the lower level monsters, because it'll instantly kill them most of the time. Also, if you want to just get a monster's health down about halfway, and you don't feel like wasting the extra hit on it, you can continually use area of effect thresholds or abilities in any way to try and do your damage faster and get rid of those low HP and low level monsters quicker. At this point, I attempt to show you my meleeing boss ability strategy, which would be to activate Berserk, which will double your damage output and intake for 20 seconds after it's activated. And then what I do is I use my basic abilities to try to get my adrenaline bar up to 50%. As soon as it hits 50%, you use the threshold ability Assault. I have hit 5,000s with Assault with this strategy. In this instance, it's hard to do it whenever you're in small solos, and I didn't want to have to do a giant, large floor just to get to the boss and show it. But in this video, I do hit like a 4,300 one time on it, but I have seen it hit 5,000, so you could possibly hit 5,000 4 times in a row, doing a total of 20,000 damage, which is pretty epic if you ask me. Alright, I'm going to try to go over some ranged abilities real quickly. They're all pretty straightforward, with the exception of a few. They've got a lot of the similar rules to a lot of the melee ones. I won't go over the basics too much, except for I'll tell you that Fragmentation Shot is a lot like Slaughter, with the triple damage if they move. So you can use that, and it's a basic, so you don't have to wait to get all your adrenaline up. And Ricochet, which is kind of like the Hurricane kind of deal, where it'll do damage to some surrounding enemies. It'll only hit 2 additional targets. And Bombardment, which will do the same effect as the Hurricane, except you don't have to be standing in the middle of the mess. You can just have them all lined up, and it'll do, you know, damage to all of them in a 3x3 area. Snapshot, it's decent. It just fires 2 shots in a row. But Rapid Fire is pretty good if you've got like a high level mage that you need to do a lot of damage to, but not too much. Like the bosses, I wouldn't use it on the bosses. I'd much rather use Deadshot, but Rapid Fire will do about 100% of your weapon damage every 2 seconds for 60 seconds. So here's an example of that. As you can see, it does quite a bit of damage. On this part, I will quickly show you how to use the Fragmentation Shot ability. It also applies for the Slaughter ability. They pretty much work the same way, where you get your target to move off the spot they were standing on when you activated it, and it will triple the damage that you do. So basically, you attack your target, and I'm going to get a little bit closer than you. Use Fragmentation Shot and then walk under them, and it'll triple the damage that it does. So you saw the first 2 hits were kind of okay, and then that 3rd hit, it tripled, and it did a massive amount of damage. Fragmentation Shot only does that 3 hits, but if you were to use Slaughter, Slaughter hits actually 4 times, so if you do it quickly enough, the first hit will hit like a 500, and then you get them to move, and you can hit 1500 times 3, or yeah, 3 times. So it's pretty useful, and it'll do a lot of damage to like things that are a high tank, like Necrael and Edimu. Alright, I'm going to try and show you the area of effect damages that range can do. It's a little hard to pull off, considering you try to keep things from surrounding you, but I'll go ahead and try to do Bombardment here. It didn't do any damage to the zombie I was attacking, because they have a pretty decent range defense, but as you can see, I attacked the zombie and it did the damage to the Necrolord. Now we'll try Snapshot. And it didn't do any damage to the zombie again. They have pretty good range defense, but you could see that the arrow flew off of the Necrolord and bounced off of it and hit the zombies. It's pretty useful if you've got a lot of mages and guardian doors, mainly in like occults and warps. There's a lot of mages. Alright, I'm just going to show you the best ranged ultimate ability to use at Necrolord boss and other ranged bosses. It's called Deadshot. Basically, it just does a lot of damage over time. It just continually hits over and over again. It's 188% weapon damage instantly, and then 157% weapon damage over 6 seconds. And it hits once every second, so it'll continuously hit 157% of your weapon damage. 6 times over 6 seconds. It's pretty powerful. I wouldn't suggest using thresholds at a range type boss unless you are hexing the mage in the trio room. Then you can use bombardment, do 219% damage, and do some damage to the other ones if they're close enough, but that's kind of hard to pull off. Well, this pretty much sums up my guide on abilities and strategies and such. If you think there's anything I missed, or if you like anything in the video, or if you have any questions, just leave a comment or send me a message or anything like that, and I'll try to get back to you. I really enjoy feedback. It helps me get better at what I do, and it also helps me help you more. So comment, message me, subscribe, like, do whatever.